Megavanan and welcome my friends to Elven Awakenings, chatting with the Elven Scholar. And now, to your guide to all things Elvish, Dr. Earendil Spindle-Ellis, the Elven Scholar.
Once upon a time in a forest rich in pine and oak lived a young elf. He lived amongst his neighbors who were clothed in fur and feather, and found joy and peace with each sunrise, and silence in the evening light of the stars. He spent his days communing with his woodland brothers and sisters, and the nights in contemplation and meditation. Light shone upon him unstained from the mortal world, and he was happy. But as time passed, he became more aware of the land outside, filled with fear and despair, and he knew his time of living in the gentle woods was coming to an end, and his journey as a teacher was upon him. When the morning sun found him again, he walked out of the forest with nothing but the clothes on his back and strode into the land of man, to teach and to be taught. For it is the way of all teachers that the student so often will be the better master. This is my story, and it is true. My name is Earendil, and I am the Elven Scholar. Megavana, my Elven Fae, and other kin brothers and sisters, and welcome to a new edition of Elven Awakenings, chatting with the Elven Scholar on Heroes and Mortals Radio. Okay, but before I get into the show, I also wanted to announce again, that actually starts today. I wanted to announce the start of our new contest. It will go on every week. There will be a winner every week if you call in, and this is the word of the hour. Today, I'm going to go ahead right now and give you the word or phrase to listen for. And the first person who catches it and calls into the show, and you can call in at 442-227-2187. That is a U.S. number, so be aware of any charges if you're outside of here or Canada. If you are the first person to call in, you win the contest for this week, and that gets you one free month at our Elven online school, Lambengolmor, where you can learn to study actual certification courses in herbalism, nutrition, Reiki, meditation, anatomy, and first aid. You'll have access to all those courses a month free. So what is the word or phrase for today? So listen through the show if you can. It will come in later in the show, and it is Tom Bombadil, one of my absolute favorite characters from Lord of the Rings. Tom Bombadil, first person to call in, here's that phrase called, will win 1 month free with Lambengolmor, the Elven School Lore Masters, where you can learn and change your career. Thank you. Back to the show now. I'm going to talk about something that might be important to a lot of people, and especially those that would like to live forever. All right, and that is, it's been studied throughout human history very well, and that is how to live a long life. How can you live a long life like an elf, for example? Can you live for thousands of years? And technically, it's possible. You learn as a doctor, for example, just what exactly it seems in some cases that causes old age and such. But it's not just enough to live a long life, even if it's not forever, say 100 or more years. It's not just enough to live a long life, but you also have to consider how you're living that life. And so we're going to talk about the Elven soul, or what I prefer to call is the Elven light that we have, and how that can be manifested to live a long and meaningful life. I know that's important to a lot of people about a long life, so let's get started. I always like to start off some of these with a quote from some of my favorite Elven groups, and this one today is from the Silver Elves, and it goes that some people are waiting to live and others are waiting to die, but we elves have given up on waiting. And that's absolutely true. There are people I have met over the years that they're still waiting to live. In other words, they're waiting for that great event to occur, something that will make their lives meaningful. And I've met many, many more people who are actually simply waiting to die. It's a very common phrase, unfortunately, in Western society, where you're born, you live, you die, and for many people, that's all that life consists of. And it's very sad to me to see that when life is such an amazing, sacred, rare gift, and it's ours to be the otters of the universe, to love this creation and to play in it, and to go out and explore and learn and grow and experience all that life has to offer us. And another little piece of that picture you might have seen is to adopt the pace of nature, because that's the secret, is to patience. The secret to long life, one of it is patience. There's an Elven phrase called Lambengolmor, and it means to slow down, to go at the pace of nature, because we are moving way too fast. And the faster you go through life, the faster life goes. And before you know it, it's over. And it doesn't have to be that way. So today I'm going to talk about basically comparing life as an elf versus life as Gollum. And I know that seems like a weird comparison, but they both experienced a long life. Lambengolmor in Elvish means to slow down, to let's go at the pace of nature. We're moving way too fast, and the faster you go, the faster life goes. And before you know it, it's over, and it doesn't have to be that way. So today I'm going to talk about basically comparing the life of an elf versus that of Gollum. And I know that sounds like a weird comparison, but they both exhibited long lives. But one did it in service of the universe, the other one in service of himself. Gollum experienced a very, very long life. And we know from Lord of the Rings that he lived over 500 years. So yes, you can live a long life, even as Gollum, even if it's not fruitful. But what kind of life would that manifest for you? So we're actually going to look and compare both lives, living as an elf, living as Gollum, and how you make those choices, and what do you manifest by doing that. So to start the comparison, one lived a long life through the advancement of their soul. They gave purpose to life, and the other one did it through artificial means. All right, Gollum, for example, was the artificial means. His was, obviously, supposedly through the use of a magic ring. No benefit to himself as far as it. He didn't earn it. He just put on this ring. He didn't have to do any spirit or soul development for it. He just put on this ring and artificially lived a long life. So how does that work today? How are people living a longer life, so to speak, with artificial means? All right, and as a doctor, I've seen this for over 20 years. I'll have patients come in there, and some of them are in their 80s and 90s, and some of them are doing very, very well with their health, and some of them are absolutely falling apart. But one of the things I have noticed that seems to be an overall truism or proof is that the longest-lived patients that I've seen tend to be those that live their lives in joy. And they found meaning in their lives. They found joy, and they tried to keep themselves pretty much stress-free. And they loved their lives. They loved living them. As an example, I had a patient some years back. I think I may have mentioned her before. And she's given me HIPAA permission to talk about her, but I'm still not going to mention her name, just for privacy's sake. She came in with massive stage 4 cancer. We're actually the ones that discovered it, and the other doctors found it as well. And they told her she had 6 months to live. And she came back to me and she said, I don't believe it. I refuse to die. She said, I love life too much. Because it's a rare thing that I've noticed with my cancer patients in general. I know a lot of people will disagree with this, but I have seen it over and over again, and there is a type of, with adults, not with children, but there is a common pattern with most adult cancer patients that they have had some kind of serious darkness in their life, and it causes huge shade or shadow of fear on their lives. And we know, we've talked about this before, that your emotions can suppress your immune system and therefore make you open to things. And so most cancer patients that come to me, obviously they're in fear because of having cancer. But the fear started long before the cancer showed up, and university study after university study is proving that there, almost in every case, there is some dark history in that patient's life that I believe left them more open to having cancer. And so it's one of the most difficult things I have with these patients is for them to release the fear and enjoy their lives, whether it's on the fact of, hey, it takes joy to heal, or, you know what, you might as well enjoy the time you have left and spend it with your family. Unfortunately, in most cases, it is incredibly difficult. They just have not grown enough to be able to let go of the fear and to recognize the sacredness of their lives. Most people are not taught that. But this one patient, she was incredible. She said, I am not going to give up. And she said, I love life too much. And she threw herself into the program. She surrounded herself with joy. It was such a blessing for me to work with her. And she, not only on the inside, but on the outside, became a beautiful being. She was just wonderful to look at, wonderful to hear. She became a health advocate and taught others because the cancer completely disappeared. And I know that, I'd like to think that our protocols helped, but in the long run, I know it was that joy and love for life that she had. And she didn't stay alive through artificial means, through drugs and chemicals and things like that. She basically did it through joy and love. So what I'd like to do in this discussion is not only do a comparison between the long life of an elf and the long life as Gollum and how you can manifest your choice, either one of those, but what exactly makes an elven being live so long? And so to do that, we're actually going to kind of break down the structure of an elven soul. What is it that makes them live so long without an artificial means? And how does that manifest for you? So we're going to break that down and show how it grows through meditation, through service to the world, diet, your attitude, and hope, where life choices are made through love and not through fear, as I've discussed before on this show. Because like I said, life is like a coin, and there's two sides, and you can choose to make your life choices out of love, or you can choose to react out of fear and make those choices out of darkness. I mean, I know most of you have heard the cliche with karma, and how others treat you is their karma, and how you react is yours. So we can choose out of love, or we can choose out of fear. I'm going to give you a little example here from Gollum. This is from Lord of the Rings. It's a little audio clip. It shows, obviously, a life that was extensively chosen out of fear, all right, and how that affected him. So have a listen, if you would. Okay, pretty angry, huh? I think some people would say that must be a South Pole elf. Anybody know what movie that came from? If you do, let me know. I'd be curious to hear if anybody recognizes that little piece. So, how can we live a long, healthy life and be very, very healthy? And basically the number one rule, and I've learned this through many, many years, and I hope that you will take this to heart, is to have a life worth living. Through all the years of my life, I'd have to say that is one of the great secrets of immortality. So I hope you guys who are listening to this, you'll take this to heart. You want to live a long life. Make sure that it's a life worth living. Nature does not exist in a vacuum. Every life form, every creature, anything that has ever been born has a purpose, and it fulfills that purpose by living its life with its true self. And you can either sit here and take up air and not accomplish what you came for, or you can look for who you truly are, look within yourself, and live a life worth living, something that nature can support and adds back to the universe instead of just taking it. Now, I know, to live a life worth living, I know that sounds probably overly simplistic, but it is true. And I don't mean just to have longevity, but a life filled with meaning and purpose. I think that's one of the great reasons why there's so much anxiety and depression today, is because people are living a life without meaning, without purpose. They don't even know why they're here. There are many people, for all intents and purposes, and again, I know we all have our own paths to walk and our own pace. But for many, many, many of those who live in this world, they basically are just, and I don't mean this to sound cruel, but they're basically just using up resources and using up air, and then they die, and that's all that they do with their lives. And to me, that's so sad. That what an incredible gift you're given, and you don't even acknowledge it. You don't even know that you have it. There's a wonderful thing that I do every day as an acknowledgement for the gifts that I have, and I do it as a Zen meditation, but it's actually a Reiki affirmation that I do every day. And I repeat it 5 times, but I do it as a Zen meditation, meaning to be in the moment, to be living mindfully. And it goes like this. Just for today, I will not worry. All right, because worry is obviously such a subconscious thing, and it takes out the joy from our lives. Just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will not be Gollum. I will not let other people own me through anger. Just for today, I will work my best honestly. I will do my work honestly. Something to be proud of. Just for today, I will be grateful. That is one of the biggest things I've noticed in most patients that come to me with chronic issues, is a lack of gratitude for the things that they have. I get it. I absolutely get it. People come in and they're sick of being sick. They're tired of being sick, and they're angry. I've mentioned this before. But again, and not meaning to judge anyone, but I have traveled all over the world. I have witnessed so many cultures, and I've seen some of the worst and some of the best that humans can do to each other. And as bad as things are in Western civilization, never in this time in human history has even amongst the poorest of us been able to have 3 meals a day, carry around a cell phone, and have all the blessings that they do. And yet, again, we see people get upset and throw tantrums because they got the cell phone they wanted for Christmas, but it was the wrong color. And to throw an absolute tantrum. We have so much to be grateful for. And to just acknowledge that every day sounds like a pretty good thing. And last but not least, just for today, I will be kind to every living being. I'm not sure I need to describe that because we're all here together. We're all taking care of each other. And why not be kind? All right. So I've mentioned it before. One of the main purpose to life, as mentioned by Edgar Cayce, when the question was asked, what's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of it? And I thought he answered it the best I've ever heard, is for us to be co-creators with God. And in Elvish we say Eru, but to be co-creators with God. And part of the way to be co-creators applies to this show, and that is we are all here to grow and advance and to become or to realize what we truly are. If we want to be co-creators, then what we do is we grow and change and we learn more about ourselves. And how better to live a long life than if you're doing it and growing. You know, a lot of people say with immortality comes vast boredom. Comes eventually you'd be so tired because you've done everything there is to do. And I can tell you that that is not the case. That as long as you are on that wonderful path of exploration, the greatest journey of all, and that's within yourself, you will never, ever stop learning about who you are. You will never stop, because what's amazing is that when you reach, again, I've mentioned this before, it's like going through kindergarten and then first grade and then into junior high school and then high school and so forth. You think, and I remember, we can think these things when we were little. We passed first grade. Yay, I've learned everything there is to learn. Oh, my. Second grade. I didn't know that there were even things like that to learn. The thing is that we know so little, we don't even know the questions are there to be asked. And so each time we pass a new grade, we discover a whole new layer, a whole new level of learning. And we never stop learning. We never come to a point to where we have learned everything there is to learn. And so in accomplishing the goal of being a co-creator with Eru is learning about ourselves so that we may accomplish that even better. And yeah, I know, there's a cool concept called a bucket list, where we want to go out and we want to accomplish all these different things before we leave this world. Imagine a bucket list that never ended. But again, you can go out and you accomplish these things and you can fulfill your bucket list. But what will you leave? What kind of world will you leave? What kind of effect will you have had on this world? Will you leave this world a better place? That's a life worth living. Make sure that your life has meaning and purpose and that it builds life instead of tears it down. Or at least stagnates. And stagnate, obviously, it's a rotten pool. It's an old cliche they do in economics with a business. Either a business is growing or it's shrinking, but it doesn't just sit there and stagnate. Life is about growth. And if you're not growing, then you're dying. So Tolkien stated one time in one of his letters, and I had the privilege of reading this one time, he said that elves are the best attributes of man, his or her finest and most advanced self, while orcs are man at their worst.
I'm starving. We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Why can't we have some meat? What about them? They're fresh.
They are not for eating.
What about their legs? They don't eat those. Ooh, they look tasty.
Get back, scum!
Carving up! Just a mouthful.
The flight meat's back on the menu, boys!
All right, that gives you a little bit of an idea of what it's like to degrade into your lowest self. You live a life like that is pretty much how you end up. And believe me, I have met people like that before in the past, where people have completely forgotten about the true meaning of life. And I know that a lot of it happens through trauma and bitterness and disappointment and fear in life. All right, well, we are the world in miniature. Heal yourself to heal the world. And I'm not going to try to wax religious here, but this was a wonderful statement made by Jesus. And by the way, a lot of people, at least in our community, would look at Jesus as an amazing elven brother. All right, he lived a life without fear. Well, Jesus said, remove the beam out of your own eye before you remove the mote out of another's. It's important that we all be in service, and that we all help to heal the world, because this world needs it now more than ever before in all of her history. But we still have to be healed also. And to be the best servant we can be, we have to be healed. I say this to a lot of caregivers that come into the practice. They'll bring their family member or dear friend in, and while I'm treating the patient, I also try to give attention to the caregiver, because so many times, and I know probably a lot of you can relate to this, it ends up being that in a lot of cases, the caregiver ends up being far more ill than the patient themselves, because they, and it's admirable, don't get me wrong, but they give and give and give of themselves without acknowledging their own health. And they go, yeah, but they need help. And I guys go, yes, you're right. But if you continue in this manner, you will not be able to help them here in the next few months. You will then need the help. It is not selfish for us to take some time out, at least a little bit of time, and to treat ourselves and to heal ourselves so that we can then help others do so. We have to be able to manifest our own light brightly, and we cannot do that if we have shaded ourselves. So again, heal yourself to heal the world, and that's what elves are here for. We're here as the otters of the universe, but it was also given to us by Eru in the very beginning to co-create and create. Create means to grow, to build up, to heal, not to tear down, not to stagnate. We've seen a lot lately on Facebook where they've been showing these videos and clips about all the plastic in the world and how it's polluting and damaging the environment, and how it's literally killing so many of our little brothers and sisters, the fish of the sea, the dolphins, the sea lions, and so forth, how it's polluting the world, and it is a catastrophe. There are literally whole islands of plastic and trash floating around the world. Well, it's easy enough to, you can go to Facebook or just simply go on and Google and look for these images and you can find them. And again, we are the world in miniature. What we do to ourselves, we do to the world, and vice versa. Do we treat ourselves sacred? If we don't, then obviously we're not going to treat the world sacred. And that's something I've learned also from Zen philosophy and so forth is, they say, well, how do you feel when you walk into a church, or something of that nature? Don't you instinctively start tiptoeing or walking quietly, or you keep your voice down because you know that this is a sacred place, whether you believe it or not, and you know that others do, and you know what, they kind of take on a feeling of their own where they do feel unique, and you want to be quiet. Okay, but it doesn't have to be just a building that someone has decided is sacred. The whole earth is sacred. So when you walk upon this earth, you are walking on sacred ground. And how about if we acknowledge that every day, every step we take, we're mindful of the fact that we are walking on sacred ground. And what we do to ourselves, we do to the world, and vice versa. All right. I love this little audio clip coming up here. It's about someone, and I think you'll recognize him, someone that so loves the world. This is, again, from Lord of the Rings, that he literally lives and breathes the world.
Climb up sometimes and they tickle me awfully. Always trying to get somewhere with it. Oh. Many of these trees were my friends. Creatures I had known from nut and acorn.
I'm sorry, Treebeard.
They had voices of their own. Saruman. A wizard should know better.
For those of you who might not have recognized it, that is one of my absolute favorite characters from Lord of the Rings, and that is Treebeard, the shepherd, one of the shepherd of the trees, originally put on this world to care for the nature, care for the environment, be one of the caretakers for it, and to protect those that were too innocent to care for themselves. If for those that don't know it, this was a scene where he's carrying the two hobbits and essentially carrying them to safety, and they guided him so that he would witness what this one evil, so to speak, wizard had done, and had destroyed thousands and thousands of trees for his own industry. And of course, the anger that ensued from that ended up rallying the trees together and conquering the wizard. You can't get much more in love or involved in the world than if you're a tree. So I guess I have no problem with the term tree hugger. I do it so often as well. We cannot treat our bodies as garbage dumps and expect our light to shine out its brightest. Again, vice versa. How you treat yourself is how you treat the world, and vice versa. You produce garbage dumps, you're probably doing the same thing. So again, most people treat themselves like garbage dumps. It's manifested in the world. Remember what I've said multiple times, that what you manifest within yourself, you will manifest outside of yourself as well. Such an obvious comparison between elves and Gollum. Elves shine brightly because they know more their true self, and they're here as servants. Gollum was entirely involved with only himself, and you see how dark he ended up being with that as well. So if you're dark, you'll manifest dark. If you're light, you'll manifest the light. Again, if we treat ourselves like garbage dumps, we're going to help create them in the world. But if we treat ourselves as light that we are, that we will shine out, and our light will shine out, and we will help and heal others as well. I've seen this happen over and over again throughout the years. Again, we see ourselves in the world as elves, that we are truly one with all. In the elvish phrase, in the Quain, all is one. If we would just take the time to recognize that this is beyond, there's the phrase, the web of life, and if you pluck this strand, it affects over there. And that is true, but it goes even far better than that. We are truly all one. It's like I said before, where I begin and you end is just a blur. It's kind of like with quantum theory. You can never truly see where an atom's at, because as soon as you look at it, you've changed the situation. All you can get an idea is approximately where it's at. And that's you. Where you are and I am, it's just a blur, because we're really all just one. And so what I do to myself, I do to you and the world, and vice versa. So how do we manifest as an elven soul? All right. I prefer to call ourselves elven light, because that's really what we are, energy, instead of just a solar spirit, because the solar spirit and the spirit is actually just an aspect of the one light. There is only one light, and we're just aspects of that. Consider our elven light beings, and the best way we can look at it, in my view, is to look at ourselves in layers. So we're going to look at ourselves in layers. I love Shrek, where he was trying to teach Donkey about what ogres are. And he said, well, we're like onions. We're like layers. And that's really what our light is. All right, so let's compare ourselves to layers of the soil. You have the bedrock. And then you have the other parts of the soil until we get to the organic top layer of dirt. So if you consider the bedrock is the soul, the foundation of it all, and then between the bedrock and the organic top layer in the soil is our spirit. And the top organic layer, that's our body, all right, so to speak. So if we manifest very much like that, okay, and so we have our body, we have our spirit, and then we have our soul. I love the way the Silver Elves, again, describe it. They explain the difference between the spirit and the soul as really as far as the layers are concerned. And for me, it's the best way to look at the spirit and the soul, because the spirit, the way they described it, and I love it. This, again, I've told you before, in my view, your light, your essence is a coin. On one side is the soul, one side is the spirit. Okay, the best way for me to look at the spirit is that's your advancement as personal growth as a so-called individual being. In other words, your ego, okay, or feeling as a separate individual person or ego. That's your spirit. That's your personal growth. And it can be a very good thing, especially when we're very young. And I mean in the sense of souls. And we're going to have an episode coming up soon about what is an old soul. Are there such a thing as old or young souls? But we're going to talk about that here very soon in a future episode here. All right. And when you're very young, you focus on yourself because it's all about you. All right? I mean, no 2-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 16-year-olds, it's all about them very often. All right, so the growth of the spirit is my desire to grow as a being. Okay, as a good example for myself, I've manifested in my life as learning how to meditate, learning about Elven culture, learning about history. I've studied a lot about the world, and I've learned and studied and became a doctor. Those are personal achievements of my spirit, of what I've done to accomplish as an individual. Those are all personal achievements. All right, and that there is one of the layers of the soul, the spirit. Okay, but unfortunately, most people stop at the spirit. They don't get down to that bottom layer, to the bedrock of the soul. If the spirit is the ego part of the light, then the soul would be the elven part that recognizes that we are all one, that of one mind. Your soul is the universe. You are not separate from it. It's taking that part of me that's the spirit and going and giving it in service to the universe, helping others find that true meaning within themselves. So the spirit is our personal growth, and we grow enough, the soul is then able to mature and reach out and take all that advancement we learn and start helping others find that same path and walk that path and find their own awakening. Again, another good example of this, we're going to go back to one more time at least, the Lord of the Rings. So for those who are familiar with Lord of the Rings, I am talking about Sauron, considered one of the great evils of the world. He was the lieutenant of Morgoth, or basically the devil himself. And so Sauron is an amazing example of someone who studied and learned the ways of the universe, learned how things work, and became highly advanced as a spirit. Incredibly powerful. Almost no one on earth could conquer him, who could win over him. And the issue, though, was he was a great example of someone who totally focused on himself, his ego, and therefore became very, very powerful and very, very obviously long-lived. But he didn't learn anything at the level of the soul. All that vast knowledge and experience and ability that he gained over the millennium or millions of years, he never was able to transfer that over to the soul side and be of service. Whereas an alternate example of that would be Gandalf. Gandalf, for those, again, who are familiar and also are not familiar with Lord of the Rings, there is something called the Maiar and the Valar. They are, basically the Ainur. They are, for all intents and purposes, angels. All right? And Sauron would be considered a fallen angel. And he was one of the class called the Maiar, of the Maya. And you had Gandalf, who was also an angel, or one of the Maya, but he was not a fallen angel. So you had two who basically were, for all intents and purposes, equal in creation. Both were very powerful beings, but Sauron focused all of his energies on himself and power and greed in order to increase himself. And then you had Gandalf over here, the same type of being, who was vastly learned and studied and became very powerful himself. And yet he took that knowledge and applied it to the soul and became a servant to the world. On the gentler side, another good example of this, of course, today is my Lord of the Rings day, so I'm going to go back to one more time. And this is on a more personal level, on a much younger individual, and how Gandalf said that even the smallest among us can make such a difference. Well, here's an example of someone from the Lord of the Rings who most wonderfully manifested the soul level of giving himself to help heal the world. Here we go.
No veil between me and the way of fire.
sacrifice, then let us be rid of it. Once and for all. Come on, Mr. Frodo. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Come on!
This was an amazing scene in the movie where Frodo, carrying the ring, has become so exhausted he's just not able to continue to climb the mountain to be able to throw the ring into the fire. So Samwise, knowing that he can't carry the ring for Frodo, he'll carry Frodo himself, and through great sacrifice, he literally picks Frodo up and starts climbing up this volcano that's constantly spewing out rocks and fire. Who better to show us this simple clarity of a soul giving to others about advancing the soul side of their elven nature? So how do we advance both the spirit and the soul and keep it in balance? Well, that's obviously, and a lot of you might not agree with this, but part of that is in your diet. Again, do you make a garbage dump of yourself? Do you make a graveyard of yourself? Or do you try to live a clean life? We want to make sure that what we put into our body, that we build a clean temple so that we shine all the more brightly. And again, meditation. Meditation is a way of calming the mind and allowing us to see with more clarity. To study all of these things are good for us to do. One of the things that's most important things that's missing from Western culture also is, and there have been study after study proving this, and that is that our need to reconnect back with nature. We are children of the earth. We are children of nature, and we cannot live in a concrete world enclosed within a hermetically sealed building your whole life and expect to be able to be connected with life itself. For all intents and purposes, your mother, the earth, is, you live in a city, you become separated from her. And yes, I get it. Cities where many, many people feel they need to live, but you can still get out. You can still get out. You can put plants in the house. You can go walk in the parks. You can take walks. Get to see nature again. Make sure that you get out on the weekends and go hiking or camping if you're into things like that. Most important, like Treebeard, go walking amongst the trees. As I said before on this show, I love what Japan has gotten so big into. The government itself now funds these types of studies and has shown that psychologically it does work to forest bathe, in other words, to walk amongst the trees. Medical studies have also shown that actually getting under trees supports our immune system through the chemicals that the trees drop. Okay, and they help with anxiety and depression. So get back with nature. It absolutely works. So what we want to do is to create a clean vehicle, our body, through diet, through meditation, through coping with stress, removing ourselves from unnecessary stressful environments. Maybe not watch so many reality shows or get on TikTok and some of these things. Step away from tech for a while. And yes, I know as a doctor, I know it's difficult for us to completely get ourselves out completely from stress. But there is stress that is in our lives that doesn't have to be there. And we can say enough is enough, and we're not going to have that part in our life anymore. We're going to seek out the light more, and we're not going to let the darkness come in and affect us. So clean the body up, clean the soul, the spirit, so that we can shine, basically being a candle. Because we know that the old cliche that a candle does not diminish its light by lighting the other candles for others. Just as an aside, most of you know, or at least the patients and students and those who follow my YouTube channel, and again, everyone has to make their own choice. I am a vegan doctor. That's a choice I made, and I've gone so far as I am a raw vegan. Again, you all have to decide what to do for yourselves, but I wanted to show an example of what can happen with a long life of being a vegan versus not being one, how much stronger the body is. And I personally have experienced this for myself, how much higher my energy is in my body and how clean I feel and how much cleaner my thoughts are. I see so often with patients coming in to the clinic who say, I just can't think clearly anymore. My thoughts are so foggy. And I've noticed how much mine have cleaned up just by making something as simple as a dietary change. All right, and not, again, turning my body into a graveyard. We can be that elven light that shines like we saw on Lord of the Rings. Okay, but we first have to manifest that within our own lives. Now, as always, if you want to be an elf, be an elf. Make that choice to be an elf. Begin to manifest it in your life every day, trying to do something elven, but to let that light shine. Sylvester McNutt stated it so beautifully. Fall in love with taking care of yourself. Fall in love with the path of deep healing. Fall in love with becoming the best version of yourself, but with patience, with compassion, and with respect to your own journey. Remember, it was Tolkien who said that elves represent the best version of ourselves. You may become whatever it is you dream for yourself, so dream well. The lesson of the life of Gollum teaches us that we can indeed live a very long life, even if it is out of balance with our true inner nature. But we might also remember the lesson of swimming with the current. Within the river of life, we always have the choice to swim with the flow or against it. We can indeed do either one, as we are endowed with that divine gift of free will. But you will eventually tire of swimming against the current, or in other words, your true nature. You can travel so much further by simply going with the flow. How will you swim? The beauty, the sacredness of this earth, when you walk, choosing to live a long life as an elf, means living as one with all of creation. You're even one with the Saurons and the Gollums of this world. But it also means that you're one with the Frodos and the Sams and your loved ones. We're going to go ahead and take a short station break right now, and then when we get back, we'll be taking callers for our Chatting with the Elven Scholar. This is Elven Awakenings, Chatting with the Elven Scholar on Heroes and Mortals Radio. We'll be right back. When you go to college, you expect the high halls and libraries filled with old books. But much has changed, and in today's world, online schools have exploded in popularity. Please join us at Lambengolmor, the world's first online college with a nod towards elven and humankind alike. With Lambengolmor, you can start a new career or a new life in the holistic health field. Learn a new elven language, study history and culture or the environment. We believe everyone deserves an affordable education with personalized attention. We provide full certifications in the following fields: home herbalist, Reiki levels 1 through Reiki master, nutritionist, first aid, Elven history and culture, Elven languages, Quenya and Sindarin, anatomy, botany, introduction to archaeology, ecology, astronomy, and Elven laws of manifestation and meditation. We also offer full diplomas in the fields of medical herbalist and medical nutritionist. More classes are being added. Many students have already found new careers in these fields. You can pay for your classes outright or join a low-cost monthly subscription which allows you to take as many classes as you like at one time while you maintain the subscription. This college was founded to give you a chance to expand your horizons while believing in who you are. All classes are certified and are aimed at helping you start a new life and a new career. Adult study programs for both elves and humans alike, designed specifically for you. You can find us at www.elvenscholar.org. Discover what is inside of you. Be who you are at Lambengolmor, the Elven School of Lore Masters. All right, we're back. So it's time to go ahead and open the mic up and the telephone line. So we look forward to any questions or comments that you have. So if you like, go ahead and give us a call at 442-227-2187. Or you can email me at radio@elvenscholar.org. Let me give you that phone number one more time. And again, this is a U.S. number, so I believe it's free as with Canada as well. But it's 442-227-2187. And again, email me at radio@elvenscholar.org. I will be checking that throughout the rest of the broadcast in case you have any questions and you want to do it through that instead of through the through the telephone. Okay, this is the first week, and we plan on doing this at this point every week to have a new winner. This is the word of the hour, and I'm going to go ahead and give you a phrase that will be coming up here a little bit later. And whoever is the first caller to get through, say, yes, I've heard it, I heard the word, then they win a free month with Lambengolmor, the Elven School of Lore Masters, where you can, again, study herbalism, nutrition, all sorts of different classes that are fully certified. So, all right, the word for the hour is Tom Bombadil. So if you hear it come up here in a little bit, give us a call. First one gets to win a month free with the school. You get to study a lot of different classes. Okay, so that is the word of the hour. Let's go ahead, and I've got a few announcements to make. And again, phone lines are active if anybody would like to call in for any other reason. I'm going to go ahead and announce next week's show. Very important to me. This was a long journey of self-discovery for me, and that is, so the show for next week is the Elven Old Soul. How old is your soul? Is there such a thing as old souls or ages of souls? And indeed there is. It actually explains quite a bit of what we're seeing in the world today. So the Elven Old Soul, how old is your soul? And how can you tell how old your soul is and what that means for your development as a soulful spirit? It's an exciting show. I've absolutely loved doing this one before. I hope you get something out of it. Okay, so we talked about the contest. I want to go ahead and at least one more time. This is for a dear Elven brother of mine. I want to announce his book club. It's a wonderful book club. I have been a part of it. We just finished The Lord of the Rings, and it took them about 2 years to get through it. This is a book club that is on Zoom. It's pretty much most Saturdays. And they, like I said, they finished with the Lord of the Rings, so they are getting ready on January 8th of next year, going to be starting the full book of the Silmarillion. They're going to be going through it chapter by chapter each weekend. It's usually about an hour and a half. It's wonderful because there's lots of good debate and discussion. You're not just sitting there just reading on Zoom. You are sharing with each other your views and interpretations. It's a great time of discussion and debate. I absolutely look forward to starting it again on January 8th. So if you want to be a part of the book club, you can email Sean at mckenzie7@gmail.com. That's McKenzieshawn7@gmail.com. Or you can get on to the Weebly site at tolkiengrace.weebly.com. That's TolkienGrace.weebly, WEEBLY.com. Either one of those will get you in touch with the book club. And so hopefully you'll want to be a part of it. It's a lot of fun. We learn so much from that. So please join up with us. Great lively debate. And one more thing I wanted to announce, and this starts up on December 19th. Oh, just a couple of weeks, and we're there. And this one is a new show starting up. I will be hosting this show as well, and that, again, here on Heroes and Mortals Radio, called Mythic Tales of Hope by the Elven Scholar. It will air each Sunday starting December 19th. On this station, and will be filled with tales of elven fae and otherkin lore, stories from a distant past, along with poetry by myself and also those who donate it to us. So please, if you've written elven fae or otherkin type poetry and you'd like to have it read on the air, please feel free to donate it to us. Again, you can send it to radio@elvenscholar.org. And by the way, the email and the website on how to get into the book club, that will, when this gets reposted on my YouTube channel later this afternoon or this early evening, those links will be in there so you can actually go check it out and see if that's what you'd like to be a part of. Okay, so, alrighty. I had just a couple more things to talk about, I think. And this one, I know I say this a lot, but I do feel that way. And this one, again, is near and dear to me. I absolutely love this character from Lord of the Rings, and that is Tom Bombadil. I would like to do a show on Tom here, and probably after the first of the year. I'd like to go ahead and talk about him, and basically it's going to be the spiritual philosophy or in some people's views, the religion of Tom Bombadil. What does Tom present to us? I mean, I don't know that you could find a better Zen master than him on his outlook on life. I mean, remember, this guy, for those that are into Lord of the Rings, they handed him the ring, and that even Gandalf and Galadriel and every other being pretty much on Earth was deathly afraid of even touching this ring. And for Tom, it was nothing. He had no problem touching this ring. And it actually, they say that it had no effect on him, that it had no power over him. And that's really what it boils down to. It had no control over his being because he is a free being. So I definitely would like to talk about him after the first of the year. Some upcoming shows as well. We are going to be talking about, so next week is on the Elven Old Soul and that type of thing. After that, we're going to be doing an interview with sci-fi author Gregory Current, and talking about what it's like to be a budding new science fiction author who's been published and his book is out there, and so it's actually going to be part of a full series. So in a couple of weeks or so, we'll be having our interview with him. We're very excited about that. Let's see what other things we got coming up here. Also, a couple of more shows are going to be coming up. Is Escaping the World of Illusion and Living Your True Elven Self. That most people don't know it, but we live very much in a world of illusion, and how we can pierce through that and see reality for what it is. You know, even science is beginning to catch up on that we are living in a hologram, and the universe is not what we think it is. And another show that is, it's like so many others, is near and dear to my heart is diet. I know that can upset a lot of people, and especially when you think about me as being not only a vegan, but a raw vegan, you're going to go, oh, what is this elf going to be talking about on this show? And I don't want to have to change my diet. And again, we all walk our own path and at our own pace, so we each make that decision. But let's go ahead and take the call here real quick. Okay, oops, I think they're trying to connect, so we'll give them just a second, see if it will make it through. Oops, I think they lost connection. So if you just tried to call us, please feel free to try to call back. It tried to go through, and I guess you must have dropped out. Let's see what we have here. Oh, okay, so we'll give that a little bit. It looks like you may have left a voicemail. If you did, and you are calling up about Tom, you will be the first to win. But please feel free to try to call us back. I've got your phone number. I can always call you back, but we need your name so we can go ahead and give you the prize. All right, so back to Tom Bombadil, and whoever that was, if you can, please try to call back. Okay, so we're going to finish with the diet here real quick before we get off the air. Diet is so important, and even today, you now have the American Cancer Society, you have the World Health Organization, the American Diabetics, American Breast Society. They all finally are coming online, realizing, okay, however far you're going to go with your diet is up to you, but surely most people can acknowledge that what they're eating today is absolutely harmful for them. So if you can at least clean up your diet, improve it, because remember, your body is the temple, and you need to clean it up. So, okay, let's see. I think I just got an email. Okay. Yes. Yeah. All right. Sean just emailed me from Canada saying you're going to talk about him after the first of the year. And that is correct, Tom. Sean, we will be talking about Tom Bombadil right after the first of the year. Again, the spiritual philosophy or religion of Tom Bombadil. All right. So let's see. We did get a voicemail in. So let's see if we can play that so we can see. Okay. I'm still, you forgive me on the tech, I'm still working this out.
Hello?
Oh, they tried, and I think I know who that voice is. All right, if you can try to call back, please do. I did get your voicemail, and I think I know who that is. But if you'll try to call us back one more time so that I can, if you're calling up for Tom, so I can help you with the prize. Okay, so yes, we will be talking about Tom after the first of the year. And so diet, when it comes on in about 3 weeks, please don't be concerned like I'm going to get preachy or anything. I'm just going to lay out what we can do to improve our lives. Because remember, while I am a doctor, I'm also a certified nutritionist. I have literally treated thousands of patients over the years with a variety of different, very serious issues. And when diet was a part of their program, we saw amazing, beautiful, miraculous results. All right. So I think we have a winner, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to call her back and get her name. And then what I'll do is next week I will announce who it was. Obviously, a technical difficulty with the telephone, I guess. And again, next week and every week thereafter for some time, we will be doing the word of the hour. I will announce it. And the first person who calls in gets to win a month free with Lambengolmor, the Elven School of Lore Masters, our online college. Okay, I think that will do it for this moment. We're going to go ahead and take a short station break, and then when we come back, it will be story time and then final thoughts. Okay, so we will be right back. Okay, as soon as we get this going. Okay, so we'll have to wait on the phone. Obviously, they are having a problem. Oh, I wanted to be able to announce them, but that's not going to happen today. So I will call you back and see if we can get that worked out. Deep in the forest is a place filled with artifacts of an age gone by, a time when elven and fairies and all those of other kin knew who they were and remembered our mythic past. It is our pleasure here at Elven Artifacts to present some of those memories. With the rising cost of so many things today, it is becoming harder to find those precious gifts that pass along an air of myth and magic to our homes and to our individual lifestyles. Within this store, you may find that one particular treasure that reminds you of your gentler past, something to help grace your home with our memories. It is our goal to keep everything priced in such a way that makes it available to as many of our gentler folk as we can. Through the magic of 3D printing, we are able to offer them at a greatly reduced price. We are including Elven, Fairy, D&D, and other kin products such as statues, wall plaques, bathrooms, kitchenwares, musical instruments, smartphone accessories, clothes, and so much more. In keeping with our Elven traditions, all items are made from eco-friendly biodegradable materials. The plastic is made from sugarcane and bamboo. You're also welcome to customize your own artifacts. One of the most important features of this store is the ability that allows you to customize an item. You can have your name written in your language or in Elven, and even customize the images placed on the items. Please let us know what you're interested in designing, and we will try and help you again at an affordable cost. So please feel free to look us up at elvenscholar.org/store, and we'll do our best to help you find those memories that remind us of our true inner nature. Namaste. It's story time. And with that comes, of course, some of my favorite parables. And today is the parable of the insults. It's a retelling of an old story from the Buddha about how he reacted one time to a very angry bystander. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you a bit about this. The reason I'm having this story today is because it's pretty apropos. It has to do a little bit with what we talked about already. Do you live your life as an elf, a long life, or a long life as Gollum? Because remember, again, Gollum lived a long time, but in constant darkness. And part, again, of living a long life, either for good or ill, is what you put out, the energy, the light that you put out. And it will determine what kind of life you will have, but it also affects the life of those around you. It also affects how you respond to other people's energy that comes from them. So I'd like to go ahead and tell you this little story. It's a gentle little tale, but the meaning has some pretty big implications for how we choose to live our life and how we choose to respond to others. I hope you enjoy it. The Parable of the Insults. There once lived a great warrior. Though quite old, he was still able to defeat any challenger. His reputation extended far and wide throughout the land, and many students gathered to study under him. One day, an infamous young warrior arrived at the village. He was determined to be the first man to defeat the great master, for along with his strength and skill, he had the uncanny ability to spot and exploit any weakness in an opponent. He would wait for his opponent to make his first move, thus revealing a weakness, and then would strike with merciless force at lightning speed. No one had ever lasted in a match against him beyond the first move. Much against the advice of his concerned students, the old master gladly accepted the young warrior's challenge. As the two squared off for battle, the young warrior began to hurl insults at the old master. He threw dirt in his face and spit at him, and for hours threw every manner of insult at his opponent known to mankind. But the old warrior simply stood there motionless. Finally, the young warrior exhausted himself. Knowing he was defeated, he left feeling shamed and disappointed that he had not defeated the master. The students gathered around the old master and questioned him. How could you endure such indignity? And how did you drive him away, they asked. He answered, if someone gives you a gift and you do not choose to receive it, to whom does the gift belong? Although this parable has a different setting, it's fundamentally the same as the old Buddhist tale of the gift, where the great master is actually the Buddha teaching a lesson, and the young warrior is a bystander who angrily disagrees. Whatever the context, the ultimate lesson and truth remains the same. To answer the master's question here, a gift would still belong to you if the recipient didn't accept it. Well, because after all, you're the one that bought it. The truth of this teaching, however, lies in allegory. You see, it's the same with your anger or negative emotions. If you become angry with someone and they don't feel insulted or accept your hostility, the anger falls back on you as it was initially yours to give. You are then the one who becomes unhappy, not them. And all you've done is hurt yourself. The Buddha often beautifully concludes his tale by saying something along the lines of, just as a mirror reflects an object, or as a still lake reflects the sky, take care what you speak or act comes from a place of good. For goodness always casts back goodness, and harm will always cast back harm. I know, while notions of karma can sometimes be too abstract and philosophical to apply in our daily life effectively, I think the lesson here is about surrendering your emotions and living your life from a place of perspective and calm. No matter what the situation, if you surrender yourself to anger, in a way you're surrendering your personal power to someone else. And doing so will ultimately give your life away. Do you want to be a puppet? Perhaps the answer lies in being somewhat of a mirror, acting to reflect others' emotions back at them, showing them the truth of their actions, not yours. As always, a balance is required, though, because as reflecting too much of others sometimes leaves little room for our own self and our own intentions. A lot of the time, people's anger comes from a place of pain, detachment, or sadness. Please remember that when you judge, you may be judging a very sad and damaged child. This parable teaches us to be conscious of our response and remember that while we can't control others, we can control our responses to them. And if you're mindful to put our ego aside, the power of serenity remains with you. Please always remember, what others do to you is their karma. How you react is yours.
Now, mostly dead is slightly alive. Now, all dead, well, with all dead, there's usually only one thing that you can do.
What's that?
Go through his clothes and look for loose change. Hey! Hello in there! Hey! What's so important? What you got here that's worth living for?
It's time for final thoughts of the day, and the clip you just heard is from Mad Max and the Princess Bride. Great little clip talking about what do you have that's worth living your life for, all right? And in this case, absolutely true love. Well, I've got a couple of little tales to tell here, on the aspect of how do we give our life meaning. And the first story is going to be about one of peace. How do we define peace? Is peace when no one is bothering us and it's quiet and we can read a book or have candles in the bathtub? Or does it maybe go a little bit deeper than that? Can you find peace even amongst chaos? How would you define peace? So I'm going to let you listen to the first story here, and then we'll come back and we'll do the second story. The story of the real meaning of peace. Once upon a time, there lived a king who announced he would give a prize to the artist who would paint the best painting depicting the meaning of peace. Many great painters sent the king several of their best art pieces. One of the pictures that stood out among the various masterpieces was of a calm lake, perfectly mirroring peacefully towering snow-capped mountains. Overhead was a blue, clear sky with fluffy clouds. The picture was perfect. Most of the people who viewed the pictures of peace from various artists thought it was the best among them all. But when the king announced the winner, everyone was shocked. The picture which won the prize had mountains too, but they were rugged and bare. The sky looked very angry, and there was lightning. This didn't look peaceful at all. It looked like the artist had mistakenly submitted his painting depicting a storm rather than peace. But if one looked closely at the painting, one could see a tiny bush growing in the cracks of the rock. And in that bush, a mother bird had built her nest. In the midst of the rush of angry weather, the bird sat on her nest with peace. You see, in your life, peace does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise and peaceful. It means to be in the midst of all the chaos of the world and still be calm. The heart of real peace is in the state of mind, not the state of the surroundings. You should live from the inside to the outside and not the other way around. The mother bird at her calm, despite her chaotic surrounding, is indeed the best representation for peace, because your inner calmness will protect you when the world around you starts crumbling. So stay calm and stay strong. What do you really want in life? Our second story is a very old one, and again, from some people's perspective, is probably a pretty bizarre one for the extreme action that the Zen master takes upon a disciple that shows up and has a simple request. This little story is meant to teach us about making sure what we really want and are we ready for it. You know, it's one thing to say, I am ready for such and such, but are you really? Are you ready to commit your all to it? Or does it just sound good to say it? So this story talks about commitment and being sure of what you really want in life. Once upon a time, a Zen master was meditating by a river when a young man interrupted him. Master, my wish is to become your disciple, said the man. Why? Replied the Zen master. The young man thought for a moment and said, because I want to find God. The master jumped up, grabbed him by the scruff of his neck, dragged him into the river, and plunged his head underwater. After holding him there for a minute with him kicking and struggling to free himself, the master finally pulled him up out of the river. The young man coughed up the water and gasped to get his breath, and when he finally quieted down, the master spoke. Tell me, what did you most want of all when you were underwater? Air. I wanted air, answered the man. Very well, said the master. Now go home and come back to me when you want God as much as you just wanted air. In your life, what is it you really want? And not what you fancy for the moment or what you would like other people to see you with. What is it in your core, in your being that you really want? Once you find out, then go out and conquer your fears. But above all, conquer yourself and conquer your heart. Well, that'll do it for today. I very much enjoyed my time with you, and again, as always, this was a special subject for me. We all would like to live longer, at least most of us would, but let's make sure that that life is one worth living. As always, thank you for listening, my friends, and until we are together again next week, may you all be blessed by the elves. My name is Dr. Arundel Spindalelis, and I am the Elven Scholar. Namaste. Megavanen, and welcome to our YouTube channel, The Gentle Musings of an Elven Scholar. My name is Dr. Arundel Spindalelis, and I am the Elven Scholar. Join me on this journey exploring all things Elven. Learn about Elven culture, healing, diet, meditation, and Elven spirituality. Come and take this adventure with me, and together we can find that inner light and balance that exists within each one of us. Namaste.